Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and this episode is very important because we will discuss about augmented and virtual reality. We have our world famous speakers, Madam Ali Rice, Professor David Schumacher, Mr. Anthony, and a startup consultant, Madam Dulcie. So I want to start from Ali Rice. So how you want to share your view about augmented and virtual reality, and if you have any kind of projects, you can share
Okay,
with
I
our
thought it was just
audience.
virtual reality, but yeah. For me, the virtual reality is exciting, and that we connect the way we do even now. So we've never met each other, and I've known Sharif for 2 years, and I've trained all the way through 2020 and 2021 with a mentor in Australia. So the kind of applications for training and education are amazing, and it means you've got global reach. Even if you're kind of, so I'm based in the UK, but it means that you've kind of got a network of international people that have huge kind of new experiences, and just so I think it's exciting. So my children use it kind of for gaming and recreation, but I think that they had an Oculus for Christmas a few years ago, but it was quite short-lived. And the few times I used it, I found it quite disorientating. So I think when you're in virtual reality and you lose track of physical space, it's a bit bizarre, to be honest. And so as usual, I think it's exciting, but I have some trepidation about it kind of overtaking everything. So we stopped doing anything physical. So I still think there's no substitute to having a one-to-one face meeting. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor David Schumacher, you are a transhumanist as well as you have very interesting view about technology. What do you think about augmented reality and virtual reality? Beside that, uh, if you want to add more interesting idea about virtual reality, you can share with our audience.
Yes, hello, Sharif, and everyone else. Well, I think these are fun. These are my virtual reality glasses. So I've played with the concept for a bit. Augmented reality, you probably wouldn't know if I was wearing them these days with some of the newer smart glasses that are out. They just look like maybe thick frame sunglasses. So while augmented reality and virtual reality end up in the same conversation a lot, they can actually be quite different. But the reason they show up in the same conversation is because some of the uses of them can overlap. For example, in training, I could put these on, and if everything was set up properly, I could go through building, assembling, disassembling, repairing an item in front of me, where I could have information that would tell me what I need to know, specifications, what kind of tool to use, what the proper process is, as well as uh, being able to do it on a device that doesn't actually really exist. Augmented reality could do something similar, but you would actually have the device in front of you that you're working on, and then you would have the same kind of pop-up information. So these are ideas for use of virtual reality and augmented reality that go beyond the normal gaming, the type of things that you see in the consumer space. Uh, Speaking of that, both Google and Microsoft have started selling product, Google Glass, for example, $1,500, uh, very avant-garde looking, and it didn't go anywhere. There was a number of reasons for that, safety concerns, but that has now migrated into commercial space for use. Microsoft HoloLens, okay, great for gaming and so forth. However, it too has migrated into commercial space. So they're both doing the same kind of thing. They have somewhat the same kind of trajectory. They have the same kind of people behind it, same kind, similar types of technologies behind it. Some people think that maybe the big rage over AR and VR is over, but CES this last year tells a different story with collaboration among major vendors. to continue to improve. Plus, I think we're going to start to see subtle infiltration of these into everyday use. The smartphone, when it came in, one of the cool aspects of it is you could pick it up and you could expand the size of the screen and do things that you couldn't do on previous devices. And that simple thing that we take for granted now was brand new, and it helped us come into that world. We've seen augmented reality games show up on smartphones where you can hold your smartphone up and see the world, and you can see what's been placed inside it. That is training us a little bit for that. We're starting to see in some automobiles, we're starting to see heads-up displays so that you can look through them the way maybe a fighter pilot would, to be able to see various information without taking your eyes off the road. That is a subtle form of integrating us into augmented reality. And you mentioned about transhumanism, and that is one part of transhumanism is augmenting what we as humans can do. And I see augmented reality as a step for that, to have people become more used to what's going on. So those are some initial thoughts, Sharif.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Anthony, do you have any
Well,
new book?
yes, a new book on the way. Book 8's on the way. Thank you. As a philosopher, I'm going to approach this from a philosophical angle and dimension. I mean, what is reality? You know, what is reality? Does the mind construct reality? How much of what we call reality is actually real? And what is consciousness? Well, to break it down, the eye forms an image of the outer world on the retina, which is at the back of the eye, and then transfers the information to the brain. So we have this feedback loop process. So consciousness is the continual creation of models, feedback loops, which describe a model of our place in space and time. Space and time is an electromagnetic field. So consciousness is actually a quantum process. So to reality. So the eye forms an image of the outer world on the retina, which is the back of the eye, transfers the information to this brain. So we have this feedback loop process. So consciousness, I say again, is the continual creation of models. Feedback loops which describe a model of our place in space and time. Consciousness and reality is ultimately a quantum process. Now, to understand this a little bit further, we have to journey a little bit into quantum mechanics. Now, we now know that the universe is actually a giant cosmic superconductor. The universe is a giant cosmic superconductor. Every single point in space contains information. Basically, virtual particles that are popping in and out of existence continually. So there's no such thing as nothing. When we look into space, every single point in space contains information. Every single point in space contains information. Virtual particles that are popping in and out of existence perpetually. So there's this invisible field everywhere in space, everywhere in the universe. And this invisible field ultimately creates reality. Everything is made up of from this invisible field, these virtual particles that are popping in and out of existence. Incidentally, nothing is a physical concept because it's the absence of something, and something is a physical concept. So there's no such thing as nothing. So there's this invisible field everywhere in the universe, and everything is made up of this invisible field. All of reality, quantum wave functions, subatomic particles, strings of light that oscillate. Everything oscillates within the universe. These subatomic particles, strings of light. So there's this invisible field. So and it's all based on frequency. If we amplify the frequency, we change the structure of matter. So what appears to be solid around us is nothing but an illusion. It's nothing but an illusion. What appears to be solid is nothing but a mirage. Everything is made up of frequency, subatomic particles. In fact, once you apply the laws of quantum mechanics to gravity itself, space itself becomes a quantum mechanical variable and literally fluctuates in and out of existence. So we're actually living in a virtual reality. Everything around us, in a sense, is an illusion. So once you apply the laws of quantum mechanics to gravity itself, space itself becomes a quantum mechanical variable, literally fluctuating in and out of existence. So everything comes down to quantum mechanics. To truly understand reality as a whole, you have to venture into the world of quantum mechanics. Subatomic particles, these strings of light that oscillate, this invisible field that defines all of reality. Okay? Another point I'd like to mention here is that reality actually comes into being as a result of an imperfection at an atomic level. The stable atom doesn't do anything. It's the abnormal atom that lacks an electron. The stable atom doesn't do anything. It's the atom that lacks an electron that creates life. So all of reality stems from an imperfection at an atomic level. The atom that lacks an electron creates life as it bonds to other atoms and so forth, RNA, DNA, covalent bonding, and life starts as a result of imperfection at an atomic level. All of reality is birthed as a result of imperfection at an atomic level, which incidentally proves there's no such thing as perfection. It's all a construct of the mind. I'll end with that for now.
Thank you, Mr.
I've got
Anthony,
more to
for
say,
your.
but I'll save it for later.
Okay, sure. Madam Dulcie, sorry. Can you? I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, great. Yay. Okay. I really love what you were saying, Anthony, about reality. I think that's really beautiful way to put the whole context together. But I'm going to bring it down a little bit and talk about the actual use cases of virtual reality and augmented reality and what people are using them for right now. I'm quite a pioneer in the space. I've been in the space now for over 10 years. I develop virtual reality experiences and I develop augmented reality experiences. And I'm very active in the hardware community and the software community as far as what's building, what's coming down the pipe, what kind of standards are we trying to put in place to make sure that people like Madam Ali and David understand that we are taking people's concerns and considerations into consideration when building out these new immersive experiences and new immersive constructs that people are going to be tapping into. So one thing I have to say is there is a very distinct difference between augmented reality and virtual reality. And a lot of people conflate the two together, right? And David was describing the difference just earlier based on the headsets. You've got headsets that will completely immerse you and headsets that will keep you rooted in your real space while bringing in contextual information that you need in real time at the moment. Some of the headsets that David mentioned, such as the HoloLens, they started out with the intention to go into the consumer world, but completely shifted and pivoted to enterprise to do exactly the kind of work that David was describing, where you get instruction and training and you're able to, move through a factory floor or move through a storage house and find the product that you're looking for and do it all through augmented reality and navigation and such, right? Putting an immersive headset on, you get lost in an immersive space. You completely lock yourself out of the real space and you get transported somewhere else when you get immersed. So that's the difference between the two. Now, the field the sweet spot that I'm very interested in and the field that I've chosen is the mixed reality or the XR space, which takes both of those and combines them in some seamless utilitarian way or experiential way, right? Giving people the ability to have both an augmented and a virtual experience tied and rooted to their real world. And that is the company that I'm working for right now, Perception Grid, and that's what we're building. We're building a back-end infrastructure layer that will allow companies to take their virtual experiences and their augmented experiences and tie them to real life events, real life venues, and have these experiences all happen in real time seamlessly. That's where we're heading. That's where Web3 is going, and that's where all of our mobile devices and all of these headsets that are coming about, that's where they're all heading. The new headsets that these headset makers like Google and Apple have what they call pass-through. So you can see your world on the outside as well as see the world on the inside. And they have these chaperones that let you have these seamless pass-throughs. So if you are in your virtual space and you're engaging and you have to step out of that virtual space, the pass-through allows you to step out of the chaperone and then see the real world so that you can now be present in the real world. Eventually, there's not going to be a difference between the two headsets. Eventually, there's only going to be one type of headset that you put on, and you can switch it. You could either think, oh, I want to go immersive, or you can say, I want to go immersive, or you can click something and you'll go immersive. It'll be biosensing. It'll read your brain. It'll read your eyes. It'll hear your voice. It'll see your sentiment on your face, and it'll make decisions based on that. And that's where these new headsets are going. They're completely gestural. They see everything about you. It's interesting. It's going back to what Ali was saying, like, getting disconnected from your real self. These things can potentially allow you to do that, get completely disconnected from your real self. But then when we think about what Anthony's saying, we are living in a simulation, and what is really real, if we think about it in that way, we then now understand that these are actually tools that have advanced us or are enabling our human evolution. And that's how we should approach them and think about them. And that's actually how the company Apple, is thinking about immersive technology. They're seeing it as a tool set that will advance their community to be a little bit more advanced in how they interact with each other. It is a lifestyle play. It isn't anything that they're talking about as augmented reality or virtual reality. They're saying, hey, get on FaceTime and share face filters with your family. And while you're there on FaceTime, take a 3D image with the iPhone 13, take a 3D image of something on your desktop, like a trinket or something, and share that with your family. And throw that you can take that 3D image and share it through FaceTime. And then your family member can take that 3D image and then put it on their desktop through augmented reality. And that's all kind of seamless. And it's not called augmented reality. It's called sharing. It's called lifestyle. It's called, engaging and getting deeper with people at a distance. So the terms augmented reality and virtual reality, they're very scary to some people. So that's why companies like Microsoft and Apple have used different types of terminologies to make it so that it's easier and softer to get in the space. And by the way, I use augmented reality all the time. I'm using augmented reality right now. I have face filter on, and I can change my look to look like whatever I want. Like if I'll do the devious cat right now. Now I'm a cat, right? I can be a cartoon if I want to be a cartoon. Let's see if this one works. There you go. So now I'm a cartoon. It could be a boy cartoon or a female cartoon. So, augmented reality is really taking over as far as like lifestyle is concerned. People use these face filters. They use them on Facebook, on Snapchat, on Instagram. They use them all the time. And, you don't know. Like, I don't think you guys even realized that I was using a filter until I just showed you. So this is where it's heading. These are the kind of things that people are going to be doing and using augmented reality and virtual reality for. And these are the lifestyle kind of interactions. So it's not scary. It's coming, and it's going to be a part of your life on an everyday. And it will make you question reality. But I love Anthony's thought process because, on the root of it all,
there's more coming.
There's on the root of it all, it's like, reality is a construct that we make ourselves. So might as well have some fun with it. Make it artistic, make it engaging, think of new ways to see the world and engage in the world. And you can go from real space into virtual space, or bring the virtual space into your real space. It's going to get very wild moving forward, but it's going to be fun. And don't be scared. It's fun. Okay.
Excellent. Mr. Adam, what you want to add? Thank you, Madam Dalsey. You bring very interesting points. And Mr. Adam, what you want to add from UK?
Thank you, Sharif. Well, recently we have seen metaverse being developed and just being rolled out onto the market, and being on social media, I have seen a few advertisements and information press releases and updates, and it's interesting to note people's reaction to it. Lots of angry reacts and laughing reacts. a mixture of lots of both of those along with the normal likes and shocked faces. So it's interesting to take notice of this, and whilst we see similar sentiments expressed in the comments, in this cultural climate, ordinary people's trust in celebrities and authority figures and billionaire industrialists like Zuckerberg are at an all-time low, and for good reason, arguably. So my main concerns are addiction potential, mental health, people's grip on reality. In terms of sensory modalities, we're living in a culture which is very audiovisual. Our society is very much inclined towards feeding inputs and endless streams of information into our eyes and ears, with the screen as a locus of attention. And it has been that way for a few decades now, or a century, beginning with the TV and motion picture at the turn of the 20th century. And that in itself is addictive. I always think of poor Howard Hughes suffering from severe OCD, sitting in his personal cinema watching movies endlessly. So marketing super stimuli for a wider spectrum of sensory modalities, like with fully immersive VR for the 5 sensors, or more than 5 depending on what system you use, could cause social problems. So I think if we concentrate on AR, then we might be able to mitigate some of those risks associated with VR, because of course AR is still tethered to the real world more than VR, arguably. I must admit I'm biased towards valuing this reality over VR. One reality is enough for me, to be honest. So I'm a bit of a Luddite in some respects. So.
Thank you. Madam Ali Rice, very interesting discussion. Beside that, some of the application, beside like industry-wise application, healthcare, educations, constructions, some application, all of you share with our audience. Maybe it will be helpful for us.
Because I think for me, because I'm an artisan designer and a facilitator, so I've worked in education for about 30 years, and it's basically using creativity to inspire and engage children to learn. And I think the VR particularly is a great way of doing things, so that they're because I think the education system fundamentally hasn't changed, and our children, my children are now 16 and 14. And they've been in a world that's really been over visually stimulated. So I think, and my two aren't that, they don't spend their time on social networks. They're achieving really well at school, and they're naturally really creative. And they get the most from creating, either writing stories or performing, or, so that they're still very much kind of orientated on their own creativity as opposed to relying on anything outside of that. And I think my worry is that we'll get to the stage when psychologically people don't know where they are with reality. And I live in a rural area that's naturally beautiful, and I walk my dog every day. And I think, that's the thing that grounds me. I do yoga, and that also grounds me, and it keeps me. And with the 2 years we've just had, the impact on people's mental health and the mass media and the propaganda we've been kind of subject to throughout, since 2020, when there's just one narrative for everything, has made everyone fearful. And essentially, from my perspective, there's nothing to fear except fear itself. So, so I just think we need to get a grasp on, on how we're being manipulated in the world as it is now, so it's kind of, and that's why I worry with the virtual reality and the augmented reality, because at the moment the mass media is already causing chaos for people, and I don't want young people to have to escape from a reality. I'd rather they had a reality they want to be part of. So that's my concern, that we have a healthy life that's fulfilled, and that it's purposeful. So my two follow their passions, and they always probably will do. So I think and I don't know whether virtual reality and augmented reality is going to come into that or not, because they both want to be filmmakers or performers. So so that's my view on it.
Thank you, Professor David Schumacher.
Sharif, thanks so much for inviting me to this. I really enjoy these discussions, and I really enjoy your guests. I enjoy seeing Ducey's faces, the face filters. I've played with them in a more static mode on my phone, but what she demonstrated was really great. Anthony, I like reading your books because you write about things that I like to think about and how you are
Androids and the gods,
approaching
right?
this. Yes, exactly.
Do
and,
androids dream
and
of the gods?
yes, so Mr. Adam always has a perspective that helps me. And now I want to comment on some of those things from my point of view. My point of view is from applying innovation. That's what gets me up in the morning and what makes me move forward. Obviously, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, extended reality, all of these things fall into that space. But I want them to be, I use them as tools. Humans are thought of as animals that use tools maybe better than most other animals on the planet do. And these are tools that we can use. So I think like navigation, for example, I look back and I remember paper maps. Yes, I do. I remember paper maps and I remember trying to get around. I would not have a paper map now that I have navigation tools that are available to me. But I want better navigation tools. So I want navigation tools that I don't have to look at a screen in the car. I want to be able to look through the windshield of the car and get my navigation cues and let me see what's going on and perhaps give me other information as I go. I want to be able to optimize my route. I want to be able to save fuel. I want to be able to burn less fuel, which is better for the economy. So these are ways that we can optimize, and we can apply some of what we know from adapting with smartphones, like the use of navigation, into how these AR, VR tools can be used for the future. Is it scary? Somebody said augmentation is scary. And I think that's right. I get that all the time when I'm talking about transhumanist ideas. But I try to remind people that we augment all the time at various levels, and we then become accustomed to it, and then we're ready for the next level. But that doesn't happen in a vacuum. We need feedback. So we can provide feedback, like Ducey was saying. One of the concerns that I mentioned earlier was Google Glass and privacy issues. So there are responses to that. So we take a little bit of the new technology, we feedback what we like, we feedback what our concerns are, and then the iteration process goes on. And this is how we apply technology in the modern day. But AR and VR in themselves are not the end, the way I see it. They are a tool for getting us where we're going. And where we're going is to someplace better. That's what we as humans always try to do, is to improve our situation. Do we make mistakes? Do we have unintended consequences? Of course. And we correct those and we move on and we continue to improve as we move on. So the internet is not a destination. The metaverse is not a destination. They are platforms to help us get to where we want to go. They create value, and we can use them to solve problems, even problems that they didn't create. There was a talk about mental health issues that come from the use of technology. But there are also the use of that technology can be used to treat mental health issues that have nothing to do with the technology involved in itself. Moral of my story, it's up to us. How do we want to use these tools? And you've got some excellent panelists here to talk about exactly that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Anthony.
Well, I'm going to maintain the philosophical stance. Basically, nuclear physics tells us a lot about the birth of reality, in the sense that we are basically a bundle of particles, but the particle that we're made up of predominantly is a neutron. We're made up of neutrons predominantly. Now, a neutron decays within 10 minutes. This is known as weak decay, because in the world of particle physics, in particle physics units, this is considered a long period of time, 10 minutes. In the classical world, our world, that's considered a very short period of time. So here we have the relativity of time at play. So when a neutron decays, it decays into three separate particles. This is the first law of thermodynamics. You can't destroy energy. So once a neutron decays, it decays into three separate particles: proton, electron, and a neutrino. Proton, electron, and neutrino. So how is it that we exist? How is it that reality comes into being, if you like, if this is the case? If a particle, the neutron, decays into three separate particles, how is it that we come into being? Well, once you place a neutron into a nucleus, it becomes bound. As it becomes bound, it loses energy. Now, if we apply E equals mc squared, as it loses energy, it also loses mass. It loses so much mass that it can no longer decay into a proton, electron, and neutrino. So it stabilizes within the atomic nuclei. And then reality comes into being as a result of a complex system within nuclear physics itself. So all of reality comes into being as a result of this complex process within nuclear physics. The neutron outside of the nucleus decays within 10 minutes. Because of the first law of thermodynamics, as I've mentioned, its energy is never lost, even though it decays and dies, in quotes, its energy is never lost. So it transforms into three separate particles: a proton, electron, and neutrino. But once you place that neutron into a nucleus, it becomes bound, loses energy. E equals mc squared means it loses energy, it loses mass, it loses so much mass that it stabilizes within the atomic nuclei. And this is the reason why we exist. All of reality stems from this complex process within nuclear physics. Everything that we see stems from this complex process within nuclear physics. And this is fundamental for us to understand the true nature of reality, whether we want to perceive it as virtual or as the real thing as such. So although I'm sort of going for more of a philosophical dimension, this is fundamental for us to really understand the true nature of reality. As I said in the beginning, what is reality? Does the mind construct reality? How much of reality is actually real? And the nature of consciousness, as I've mentioned. Consciousness is the continual creation of models, feedback loops, which describe a model of our place in space and time. Space and time is an electromagnetic field. So consciousness and reality is a quantum process. Okay? So this is the stance I want to maintain from the angle of philosophical approach. And the next point I'd like to make, one could even argue, I mean, are we living in a matrix? Are we living in a virtual reality? Well, if we measure cosmic rays going through space at one angle, excuse me, 1 second, sorry. If we measure cosmic rays zipping through space at one angle and find that they have consistently different energies to those traveling at another angle, then we know that there's a grid structure to the universe. Okay? So, although I'm coming from a philosophical angle, I think this is very important for us to truly understand the nature of reality as a whole. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Dulcie. Yes.
I really love that because, okay, you got my brain going. So if the nature reality is basically a construct, right? And that's the physical and the what we hear, see, feel, and touch, right? That's all a construct. Those are rooted in actualities, right? That we can manipulate them and we can change them in some way, but there are rooted actualities around that. So in reality, we can say that is the base real, right? Then you've got another layer of reality that is on top of that, and that comes from a zeitgeist reality that humans put on themselves with the brain, like the groupthink, the mind hive reality, right? And that's what I like to point to, traditions and belief systems and institutionalized ways of doing things that we've done for centuries or decades, or how a nation behaves and their people behave and operate. That's a group reality that they live under, right? So going to what Ali was saying, like keeping people rooted in reality, the realities that people are really rooted in are not actuals. They're not actualities. They are these constructs that they have adopted or they've latched onto, and these are belief systems, and we're suffering from that here in America big time right now. You've got many different factions of people holding on to their own reality belief systems, and in their mind that is how the world works, right? And then you have another group that says in their mind this is how the world works, right? So already as a human race, we are all living in a fragmented world. We're living in a very fragmented world with multiple modals of realities going around, and many different people have many different ideas of how the world operates, right? So when we're scared about adding more realities into the mix, I don't feel the fear in that sense. I think, like as David was saying, these are tool sets that can allow us to maybe come to a middle ground, to gain some insight between these different modalities of thinking, right? And I come at this from 13 years of being in Second Life. I'm a Second Life resident. I've been there for 13 years. I've met people from all over the world that have come into this world for quite different intentions, right? Some people have come into this world to escape. Some people have come into this world to have an affair. Some people have come in to be a pop star, a rock star, and become famous. Some people have come in this world to flex their virtual influencer skills. They don't necessarily look great in real life, but they know how to make a beautiful avatar, and they have all the great virtual influencer skills that a gorgeous Kim Kardashian type girl would have. But they now do it through an avatar, and they're very popular people. They've got thousands of people following them and taking beauty advice from virtual beauty advice from them. So there's a whole world that pops out of creating these digital virtual spaces and these digital virtual experiences that could both help us connect deeper as a human race and gain more understanding to make those different society realities kind of interact with each other in a way that they probably never would have interacted before. So I've met people I've met people from multiple different religions and walks of life through the virtual space, which has made me appreciate and understand where they come from, that I never would have had those understandings before. But now I do have a deeper understanding, a deeper appreciation. And that all happened in a virtual setting, in an immersive virtual setting for me. Also the ability to augmented reality
That's
technologists. Oh, and did I lose you? Am I here? Oh, sorry. Another example that a lot of augmented reality technologists like to use is the example of being able to put your glasses on and blocking out people in real space, right? So if you don't like a person and you put the glasses on, you can mask them out and block them. It's like something out of the TV show Black Mirror, but that's a reality that's going to start happening. Or you can completely mask that person, people over with a character. So you can turn everybody into elves or into gnomes or whatever, into slugs. And that's how you see the world. You can walk around the rest of your life through these glasses, looking at everybody and seeing them all as slugs. And that's your prerogative. If you want to do that, you can now do that with augmented reality. But what are the ethics around doing something like that? Why would you want to do something, and how does that affect the person that you're perceiving? How does that affect the way you perceive the person now, based on you covering their natural look with a look you want to give them? Like, there's a lot of mental health and ethics that we need to think about and work. And there's quite a few very smart people in the space that are really thinking about that and really pushing it, and are working with big companies, but also kind of slapping them on the hand when they allow certain things to go down or happen in their virtual spaces. So, a lot of think pieces come out of people that have been in Horizon and talk about the experiences that they have. Think pieces around what people have done with different, like Pokemon Go and Niantic and augmented reality, and what that's done to people out in the real world, and so we got to take those learnings that they get and really apply that to help us, and use them as tools, and not allow them to take us over and cause more fractions in reality, and create more fissions around the world, between people. It's about connecting. And then one other thing I'd like to say, as far as connecting people in the immersive space, there is a real connection happening there. yes, you go into a virtual world, it's all pixels, it's all code. But if you're there standing in the presence of another person who is also there, you do feel the energy. The energy exchange happens. There's a definite feeling of connection going on between you and that person that is undeniable. And if anybody ever says that they don't ever feel connected, they're lying, because they are being connected. You can talk to the person. You can look in the eyes of their avatar. You can actually even reach out and potentially, get a haptic feedback between. That's an energy connection actually happening there. So that's the thing that I find the most fascinating and powerful about it. And the reason why I spend a lot of time building high fidelity looking avatars, because if I'm going to participate in this world, I want it to feel as natural and as real as possible for the people who are engaging in the worlds that I build. So that's where I am. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Adam.
Thank you. I just wanted to express some agreement with what Ali Rice was saying, and to continue a little bit with that sentiment. I do wonder whether VR especially, not so much AR for aforementioned reasons, but I do wonder whether VR in particular poses a teleological risk threatening people's higher motivations, higher destinies in a similar way to what the experience machine thought experiment was trying to illustrate. Nozik's experience machine, I hope I pronounced that right, Nozick, yeah, formulated by philosopher Robert Nozick. Would you step into the experience machine that offers you endless pleasure and happiness indefinitely, which of course highlights the wire heading problem? Rats in the Skinner box, and even human patients being treated with experimental deep brain stimulation for depression, pressed buttons sending electric impulses to the pleasure centers until they started going down a dark road of self-neglect, and if eventually starvation and thirst if it was allowed to continue. So it was aborted before it could go further. So I am biased because I am part of probably the first generation to actually grow up with the internet. For me, personally, it didn't come into my life until I was about 13, I think. So I have seen the frustration that internet addiction causes, and a lot of that concern is from personal experience, unfortunately. My imagine runs away with itself sometimes, and now and again I can't help but imagine how different my brain is to, say, my parents or grandparents or other generations who had their brains shaped without some of the influences that shaped my brain as I was growing up. So that is where some of my concerns for VR come from. Thank you.
Thank you. This is really great discussion, and I believe this kind of session will be really helpful for the youth community in Asia Pacific. Thank you, Madam Ali Rice, Professor David Schumacher, Mr. Anthony, Madam Dulcie, and Mr. Adam, for your continuous support for World Talent Economy Forum. Besides that, we want to arrange more conference. We want to arrange more training and development. Already we are providing training in different developing nations countries, as well as we finished our collaborations with IEEE. So this year December we will launch one of the largest scientific conference in Asia Pacific. Those who want to publish your paper in IEEE Explore, you can publish your papers uh, through our conference, and hopefully all of the world famous scientists, they're going to join in our Nikola Tesla Technology Conference in 2022, and hopefully your support will be very helpful for us. And World Talent Economy Forum, beside that, that we are basically focused on talent economy. We want to develop a sustainable human for the developing world. Already we collaborate with Harvard Business School. Harvard Business Schools support World Talent Economy Forum initiative. They also believe that talent economy ultimately a process of developing human, as well as they want to develop a sustainable human in developing world. So soon we will arrange a series of work with Harvard Business School. So I want to give thanks all of our speakers, those who regularly support World Talent Economy Forum. Besides that, the audience, uh, those who always support us. And I request, please share our content with your government, with your corporation and academy. And we want to do more great projects in the developing world, definitely with the help of all of our speakers. Thank you everyone for your excellent discussions and dialogue. Now I request everyone for the concluding remarks for today's session. First, Madam Ali Rice, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Okay, so in my experience in 2020, I had a mentor that trained me intuitively, and I've been an artist and designer for 30 years, predominantly working in schools, and suddenly I tapped into my ability to flow write in poetry. And I'd be quite interested to ask Anthony, is that tapping into consciousness? When you flow, there's poetry that flows from you, like just naturally. Is that consciousness? Or is it, because I've had a debate with another member of the Innovation Forum during the last few weeks about consciousness and AI, and, where there's kind of empathy and, so it's kind of, I'm quite curious about the consciousness. Because I think, fundamentally, we want to be happy and healthy, and we want our children to go into a future that's also happy and healthy too. And for me, the natural world is where I find that grounded. So, in reality, is there no natural world as well? I'm quite intrigued with your philosophy. So yeah.
Message me on Facebook. Message me
Sorry?
on Facebook. You can message me on Facebook with any questions. With any questions, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that kind of punch for me. There's been a rise of consciousness throughout the last 2 years that I've felt, and so many of my network have. So, and that there's kind of been an awakening to what's really important. So I think we've kind of reconnected to things that we might have forgotten before. So yeah, that's my kind of final thing.
Yeah, message me.
I will do.
Okay.
Thank you. Professor David Schumacher, what's your concluding remarks for today?
So, the future. The future of AR and VR is probably going to be different than what we think of it as today. As I look back at previous technologies as they were developed, we had ideas where they were going, and they didn't follow the initial trajectory in a lot of cases. In popular culture, a lot of these technologies show up in movies, television shows, things of that nature. Keep in mind that these television shows are commercial, and movies are commercial products for right now. They're something that you can relate to right now from what's going on in the world. Many times that's the stories that are told. And what actually plays out in the technologies from sci-fi can be a little bit laughable if you look back to things like Tron, talking about early digital experiences. So Ready Player One is what many people think that metaverse will look like. And these all have an AR, VR connotation to them as well. So just keep in mind, be entertained with sci-fi, but don't be bound by it. What will the future look like? It will be the future that we make as we apply the innovations to things that truly do make us better. And who determines what's better? We do. That's the advantage of voting with your money and where you spend your time and where your interests go. So I'm excited because I want to build a better future. Let's do that together.
Thank you. Mr. Anthony, what's your concluding remarks?
Well, my conclusion is this. I've gone into nuclear physics, quantum physics, atomic physics to explain the nature of reality and the fact that we live in a giant cosmic superconductor, that there's this invisible field everywhere in the universe, everywhere in space. Every point in space contains information. Everything is made up of this invisible field. Frequency, quantum wave fluctuations. Amplify the frequency, change the structure of matter. What appears to be solid and real around us is ultimately nothing but an illusion. It's all to do with frequency, subatomic particles, strings of light that oscillate. Everything within the universe oscillates at a certain frequency and so forth within the quantum world. But what I would say beyond quantum mechanics, beyond atomic physics and nuclear physics, is all of that has to be ultimately connected to theology. There has to be a greater power, a greater force that transcends time and space, exists outside the sphere of time and space. Space and time is an an electromagnetic field. There has to be this eternal being, the eternal source that connects all of these complex processes, that is behind the mechanism behind nuclear physics, atomic physics, and quantum physics. God, the eternal creator, that controls all the mechanisms within physics, quantum, nuclear, and atomic physics. He is the spark behind consciousness, whether robotic or human consciousness. This creator, shall we say, is the spark behind consciousness. The ultimate definition of consciousness is that consciousness is ultimately connected to a higher power. We can go into quantum mechanics, speak about the complexity of the brain and so forth, but it goes way beyond. It goes way, way beyond that. There has to be a higher power that connects, that is connected to everything, that controls the mechanisms of physics, quantum physics, atomic physics, and so forth. And consciousness is ultimately connected to a higher power. So we have to go into the realms of theology and connect science, philosophy with theology and create this giant universal orb of thought where everything is ultimately connected by a higher power. So this creator anchors all of reality. He is the ultimate reality. I close there.
Thank you, Madam Dalsey. What's your concluding remarks? There are also a question from Mr. Tom Rose.
Is technology separate from consciousness? I personally, I don't think our technologies are separate from our consciousness, and I think that humans are technical beings that are always trying to innovate and figure out new ways to make their lives better, or make things more efficient around them, or make things easier so they can have more fun time to enjoy with their family and friends. And I think that idea of technology and consciousness being kind of like rooted and tied together seamlessly is at the core of what some of these companies are trying to do, namely Meta and Apple. They are spending a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of energy figuring out how to make their technology work seamlessly for you. And when I mean seamlessly, it's listening to you, it's reading your brain waves, it's sensing all your bio feedback, and it's offering up and serving up things to you based on all that data and information. So that's, if you're going to think about it as an extension of your consciousness, that's pretty much what these companies are trying to do. Make these tools an extension of your being, an outside layer of your existence that works as a proxy for you. It's your digital agent, your digital twin that will go out there and do things for you and make your life easier. So that's all interesting and exciting, but also scary. And when I hear Mr. Adam talking about how he's grown up with technology most of his life, and he's got an adverse reaction to it, it's very interesting, and I find it fascinating, and I want to know more about what that is like for him, because it's true. I come from a time that there was no technology at all. I only had a 3-channel television set and a telephone hanging off my wall. And that was the only technology in my house other than the electricity in my refrigerator, right? We had a gas stove, so we didn't even have an electric stove. So that was what I grew up with. And then when I became a teenager is when I got my first computer. And even then it was very novelty. It wasn't like, this is what I'm going to sit down and use for the rest of my life and be on it all the time and do everything. It was, I went on it to show how cool I was. And, oh, look, I can hack a website. And how cool am I? Now let me go run to the rave and hang out with 3,000 people for 3 days, straight, and enjoy myself and not think about technology, right? And that's just not the way it is anymore. Young people are born with a device in their hand, and toddlers are FaceTiming each other right now. The idea of toddlers FaceTiming in the past would have blew my mind, but now they're getting on the phone and they're calling each other, and they're having baby talk FaceTime with each other. So I love what Mr. Adam's saying, and I would love to, get more feedback in that way. And yeah. So thank you very much. This is a great panel. He might have froze. Go ahead. Go ahead and talk, Adam.
Oh, no.
You're muted.
Awesome.
Hi, yes. Yeah, I I didn't mean to be so alarmist about VR or future technology, but of course I had some concerns for several years already, and of course, like Ali mentioned, of course the last 2 years have compounded this kind of concerning behaviour. So I've seen that in others, or heard about and read about my family's friends as well, and how they're suffering mentally. Of course, from my own subjective experiences. So this topic highlights the problem of isolation, and there is a reason isolation is used in punishment, in prison, or in interrogations. It's a form of torture. So isolation is damaging, and we all need to be isolated now and again in therapeutic doses, of course, but we don't want the next generation of people to struggle with the addictive potential of an even more super stimulating internet of the future than the one that we are interfacing with now. And thank you for the kind words, Dulce. I've put my name in the chat box if you want to send me any questions on Facebook, and we can have a dialogue. Adam James Davis, if you'd like to talk more about this. Thank you. Oh, he's back. I've just finished talking.
Okay, thank you. This is really great discussions. Besides that, I just want to add that World Talent Economy Forum will create job opportunity for 1,010 people in Asia Pacific with the help of developed world, especially Oxford University, hospital, Cambridge University, hospitals, DHLs. They are actually supporting our initiative. We need all of your support because we need to train our people in developing world. And in this COVID-19 situation, actually, two things is very important. Number one, healthcare system, especially in developing world, it has a lot of challenges. Many people still do not get vaccine. Healthcare almost broken down in developing world. And second thing, that economy is a massive challenge right now. So we have to really work on economy and fix the economy. And World Talent Economy, our major objective is solving the economic problem. We know many people died in this COVID-19 situation. Many people lost their job. Many people actually even go for suicide. So compared to the present situation, our initiative is very small, only 1,000 people job, actually nothing. So we need more of your support. Anybody want to support our initiative for the developed worlds, maybe for the developing world it will be helpful. You know that recently we finished our conference with Rwanda, so already we are providing training. So those who successfully completed the training, they will get the job in Europe. uh, and beside that, we are taking some other initiative that how we can actually train people, create employment opportunity, as well as creating entrepreneurship. But fact is that in developing world, entrepreneurship some point is a really risky because we do not have enough social protections, enough economical protection. So it's not like Silicon Valley, not like easy, even not like cyber. Yeah, definitely it's also very advanced ecosystem. But we are working very hard. So those who want to support our initiative, they can join in our team. uh, in any way you can support, because definitely in this situation we need to create more job opportunity until or unless this COVID died and all of the problems solved. We are working hard, but definitely we need more support, more corporation. Any corporations want to join and support our initiative, we are open for that. Any NGO and organization want to support our initiative, we are open for that, because we have too much of people in our hands. We need to train them, we need to provide support them. So we are open for any kind of support. So thank you, Madam Ali Rice, Professor David Schumacher, Mr. Anthony, Madam Dulcie, and Mr. Adam for your continuous support for World Talent Economy Forum. Hopefully, as a team, we will contribute more. And beside that, one of the requests, because we need more fan, more followers. So I know those who join, everyone actually influentials in your community. So you can also share our content, and any of your like suggestion and advice, we are open for that. Any of your idea you want to share with our core team, we are open for that. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. Thank you. Bye bye,
Thank
and
you.
take care.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Mhm. Good to be back.